Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to dig into a pretty intense viral video. It makes some serious claims, accusing the media of telling dangerous lies about a fatal incident up in Minneapolis. So let's break down exactly what it's arguing.
So right off the bat, this video isn't pulling any punches. It opens with this really direct accusation, immediately framing the whole issue as one of deliberate deception by the media.
All right, so how did they even begin to build this case? Well, we're going to walk through it piece by piece. We'll start with that specific incident in Minneapolis, then look at the accusations against the media, the claim that there's a war on ICE, how politics fits in, and finally, a direct plea to citizens. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, so the whole thing really hinges on this one single fatal encounter. But according to the video, this wasn't just some tragedy. It was a targeted attack on a federal officer. And you can see right away, the speaker sets up this massive conflict in how the story is told. On the left, you've got what they call the media's narrative, focusing on what the officer did. But on the right, you have the video's version, which flips it completely, framing the event as an assault on the officer. And then, the video drops what it claims is a bombshell piece of context, the officer's past trauma. The argument they're making is that this history explains his actions, and it's a motive the speaker claims the media just deliberately left out of the story. So this idea that key facts were left out, well, that's the launching pad for the video's next huge claim, that the media isn't just getting it wrong by accident, it's lying on purpose. All right, so here's what the source claims the media completely ignored. They say the woman was there to interfere, that she tried to ram the officer with her car, and that he was just defending himself. But then it gets bigger. The video alleges she was part of this left-wing network that aims to attack, dox, and assault ICE officers. You know, doxing, that's when someone's private info gets blasted all over the internet. The speaker argues that by leaving all this out, the media's reporting is a disgrace that actually puts officers' lives in danger. And this is where the video really zooms out, right? It takes this one incident in Minneapolis and reframes it not as some isolated event, but as just one single battle in what it calls a much larger organized war against federal law enforcement. And you really got to pay attention to the language being used here. This isn't just about protests. The source calls it a coordinated campaign using domestic terror techniques. I mean, that's a huge claim. And to back it up, they roll out some pretty jaw-dropping stats. First, they hit you with this, a supposed 1,200% increase in assaults against agents. It's a staggering number, and it's used to establish this pattern of rising physical violence. Then, they follow that up with a 32 to 100% jump in vehicle rammings. A statistic clearly went to connect right back to that incident in Minneapolis we just talked about. And to top it all off, an 8,000% spike in death threats. So when you put those three statistics together, the picture they're trying to paint is really clear. An agency that's completely under siege, facing this escalating danger from all sides. So where does all this lead? Well, the source connects this supposed war on law enforcement directly to the political divide in America, drawing a very sharp line in the sand. And this table really breaks down how the speaker frames the two sides of this fight. On one side, you have the Democratic Party, who they say is trying to impede and abolish law enforcement. And on the other, the Trump administration, presented as the only one standing up for law and order. And just when you think you know where this is going, the video pivots. A whole new speaker comes on, and they're not talking to the media, they're not talking to politicians, they're talking directly to you, to regular citizens. And a message here is, well, it's a really blunt warning. Basically, stay out of the way. Let law enforcement do their jobs, because, as he says, the rules have changed and they're not playing anymore. The implication is that the consequences for getting involved have become deadly serious. He really reframes the whole idea of citizen interference, not as heroic, but as a dangerous and kind of pointless sacrifice. The argument is that this woman died for people who were, in his own words, committing fraud and, quote, don't even care about you. So really, this whole last part of the video comes down to one single, really powerful question. It's aimed right at anyone who might think about interfering with law enforcement, forcing them to ask themselves, what are you willing to risk and why? So, in the end, that's the ultimate takeaway from the video. This plea to stay in your lane and just let agents do their job. And it really leaves us with a big question to chew on.
What is the public's role when it comes to the actions of federal law enforcement?